Excellent. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this slightly boring sounding, but at the same time, a super important session on data transformation. I have a bunch of problems that I have created. So let me just give you an outline of what we are going to do and what you can expect to learn. I will definitely speak about the tools that you use in addition to Excel. But since this particular workshop is focused primarily on Excel, we are going to focus on Excel. So I'll talk about some Excel examples to begin with. Then how VBA can be used. In fact, VBA is something I'm going to cover at the end. So let me put it down. I will show you Power Query, Power Pivot, and then VBA as script editor. You can think of script editor as VBA for Excel Online, for the internet, for the cloud. And then there are a bunch of examples that I will cover for you. One is, it's very difficult to explain what the problem statement is, but we have 5 different examples. One is to find out the top analyst from a list of projects that have been handled in an organization. Then I have an issue where, I'm not sure why this one is there. So there's a problem where we have the target and the budget, but the way the data has been given to you, I cannot make any analysis. I can't make a pivot. So we will have to clean that. Then we have a large example in which I cover Power Query and Power Pivot together. And I will show you how these 2 components in Excel are super important if you want to be an advanced Excel user. And we will also learn how to work with PDF files, something I feel is important to all of you. But before anything else, let me start with the problems that we are going to solve on Excel. By the way, the solutions I'll be sharing with you after the session is over. So you can always go back and watch the formula, and if you want to practice it on your own, you can do that. This is the problem statement. I have already done it in a few other workshops, so maybe you have already seen this earlier, but I hope that it is new for most of you. The problem statement is that I have a data set, and as you can see, we have, I'll call this the input, for simplicity. And in my input, I have 18 records where we have the shipping mode, which is standard class, first class, second class. I have the corresponding column, which has the customer name, and then I have the sales value. Now, from this input, I want to create a subset or a sub input in which I only want to look at how many rows or how many records are meeting specific criteria. And what criteria do we have right now? If I highlight them for you, you can see that. Just put a nice yellow color here. You can see that there are 3 criteria that I have. That the ship mode should be standard class and the sales amount should be between 150 and 350. Now, the moment I show you this, what is the first thing that comes to everybody's mind? We filter, right? That's what we have been doing for so many years, and we have never really thought of doing anything differently. So we say, what's the big deal? I can simply come to the data set. So we don't want to count it. We want to extract the complete record. For example, if you look at the first one, this is meeting the condition. Standard class, DAR and pass, 291. This is meeting the condition. And as you can see, some of them might not be meeting the condition. Like this one is not meeting the condition. What I want to do, everybody, is to first go to filter. Then I will say, fine, I want to go to standard class. So it reduces the number of rows. Then you say, okay, there is another condition, which is that the number filter should be between 150 and, you can even select the cell here. So I can't even select the cell. Great. So between 150 and 350. And it tells you that there are only 5 records where all these 3 criteria are being met. Why am I calling them 3 criteria? Because greater than 150 and less than 350 are 2 separate criteria. Now, next I will say, okay, now tell me in first class, how many are over 200? Then again, you will have to cancel the filter, apply a new filter. And this is exactly what we want to avoid. I don't want to again and again apply and reapply filters. But we do have to filter the data, right? And that's why the function that we are using is called filter. But we will come to that. Before we apply filter, let us see how do we even know which rows are meeting the conditions or not. So when I say equal to B10 to B27 is equal to F3, what does it do? It goes and checks every single value from B10 to B27. Let me just put it in a parentheses. And it says, okay, is B10 equal to F3? Is B11 equal to F3? So on and so forth. So I get a series of true and false. Make sense? Okay. Next, I want to, now you know what we are doing, right? Now I can say, okay, D10 to D27 is greater than equal to 150. Same thing, you will get true and false. And finally, we say equal to less than equal to 350. So we get another series of trues and false. Now, if you notice, how many times is true, true, true coming? First row, here it is not coming because even though the value is yes, standard class, yes, greater than 150, it is not less than 350. So I don't, this one is something I don't require. I only need this row, then I need this row. So basically I'll go row by row and I only want wherever true, true and true are coming. But then how do we combine everything? Let me just multiply everything. I'll say equal to this into this into this. Now this means that you will get a 1 wherever all the three were true, and you will get a 0 if any one was coming as a false. Now let's combine everything. So very smartly we can say, okay, equal to standard class. This is the first one, all right? But then this will have to be in a parentheses like this. This is multiplied by this, and this also will have to be in a parentheses. So I'll start a parentheses and I'll say greater than or equal to 150. And of course, we do it one final time where we say less than or equal to 350. And what would you expect? We will get a series of ones and zeros. That means we only want those rows where it is coming as 1, which would be this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. That's what we want, right? We want to filter the data. So from the 18 rows, I'm now going to tell Excel, I'm not interested in all the rows, only the ones where the result is coming as a 1. But where do we use this set of values? Now I'll have to use filter, and I will say that, okay, I want to filter my complete data. So all the 3 columns. And what is the include? That means the inclusion criteria. It has to be the same number, but it will be a series of ones and zeros. So it will give me only those records where all the 3 conditions are being met. As you can see, from 0 to 500, I have these many records. If I say 0 to 100, I have no records. So that's why you're getting a calc error, right? Which is a new error in Excel. And of course, I can change this as well. So I can make it first class and you get the result. So it's so easy for you to take a data set and extract subsets from that data set. Any questions on this, anybody? See, we'll not have time to come back and revise all this. So
filter is not there, sir.
Yeah, so filter is a part of something called dynamic arrays. So it is expected to get launched in Microsoft Office 2021, which is going to launch in some time. But it will not come in other versions of Microsoft Office. So if you have whatever, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, you will not have it. So it is meant to be used with Microsoft Office 365. That's a subscription model like you have for your OTT subscriptions. So like a Netflix subscription, you have to pay 489 rupees per month for a personal Microsoft 365 account. And that is how you will get all these latest features. But up till 2019, these features will not be there. What I suggest if you want to practice is to simply go to just go to office.com. You can create a free account on this. And here you will find all these features. Let me also show it to you. Let me open a new workbook. Just a minute. Right, so you can just write equal to let or equal to filter, and you'll notice these functions are available on Excel online. Right. Okay. Now, I hope that answers the question.
Yes.
Anything else? If I save this file and I send it to you, or you open it on your computer, you will only see an error because your Excel version is not compatible with these functions.
Okay.
Most organizations have this, not all of them, of course, but most organizations are on Office 365, which is now a Microsoft 365. All right, let's continue.
So if I have 365 on my laptop, then I will be able to see it, is it?
100%. 100%. Any version of 365, whether you have the personal edition or whether you have the business edition, you will have these.
Okay. So this one you are using is a business edition or personal one?
So I use both. I have a business account and I have a personal account.
All right.
All right. As a continuation of the previous one, now I want to show you how dynamic arrays for data cleaning, right, can be, by the way, data cleaning, data prepping, data transformation, data wrangling, ETL, all of these are the same thing, okay? So it's not different things. Programmers might call it data wrangling when you're working on Python. Database guys might call it ETL, those who work on SQL. In Excel, we call it Excel, without realizing that what we do in Excel 80% of the time is data transformation, isn't it? So don't feel that oh, all of these are different terms. All the terms are absolutely the same. Dennis, can we use H5 in filter parameters? I'm not sure what H5 you're referring to. What is an H5? Of course we can, no, but that means that the value has to be exactly equal to 0. That would not make sense. You're not searching for transactions that are 0. You're searching for transactions that are greater than or equal to 0.
So I meant to say, when we are searching for, I mean, the between conditions that we are using, can't we reference call the cell H5? That's what I meant.
We have reference H5, is it?
No. When we are directly I mean, the first instance where we were filtering out from the live data set itself instead of applying the formula, when we were calling out in the cell T9.
Okay.
Can't we reference call the cell A5 there?
I'm very confused. So tell me exactly what you want. So you have the data here.
In the cell D9.
Okay.
When we're going and in number filters, we're using between function.
Right. I don't think, I was under the impression that you can select the cell, but as it turns out, it is not allowed.
Okay.
You can't reference the cell in this. And even if you could, then again also it's manual. No? Every time you have to go and change it. But in any case, you can't. I'm not able to click on it. All right. So the concept of dynamic arrays are used not just inside using functions. It also works otherwise. For example, here if I say equal to if error, what will it do? It will tell me, I'm sorry, if I say is error, it will tell me that in this entire grid of values, which are 4 rows into 10 columns, 10 rows into 4 columns, it tells me, do you see this? There is a true here, there is a true here, and there is a true here. What do we need? We only need to find how many true values are coming. So we can use a unary operator, which is a double negative. A double negative basically converts true into 1 and false into 0, like this. And once you have done that, you can simply say equal to sum. And now it will tell you that there are 4 errors in the data. So what are we trying to find here? How many? What percent of values are errors, right? This is my logical business requirement. I want to know that out of all the data set that I have, how much is error? So we can simply say equal to divide by the count of B5 colon B14. So now it tells me that if I convert this into a percentage, it tells me that that doesn't seem right. Just a moment.
Sir, that should be E14.
Yeah. Right. So it tells me that 11% of my values are errors. Right? The learning here is that you can use is error or any formula for that matter for a series of values. Like what I did here was I only wrote is error B3 E12. Excel is very smartly deciding that, oh, Havish wants to see the value for a range of cells. Let me also tell you how this works on Google Sheets. In fact, I wrote an article on this. Why don't I simply open that article? Let us save us some time. Google Sheets uses JavaScript, right? That is what we use in Excel also. But there's something different there. Let me explain it to you by opening my published article. Just a moment. Look at how dynamic arrays work in Excel versus Google Sheets. So in Excel, if I say A2 colon A11 multiplied by B2 colon B11, Excel will automatically fill in all the values, right? It's very smart. And I think it's very simple for beginners to understand how this works. But in Google Sheets, you have to explicitly write, if you're multiplying A2 A11 by B2 B11, it can do it. It can give you multiple results, but you have to explicitly say that I'm trying to create an array formula. In Excel, it does it automatically. Honestly speaking, I prefer Google Sheets because it gives you more control over when will it be an array, when will it not be an array. Excel feels that this will make it too complicated for users. So they say, we will decide for you when it should be an array, when it should not be an array. 99% of the time, it should work for most users. But then, yes, I would have preferred for them to make it a little longer, but a little more controllable Right now, the problem is it's not controllable. I can't control when and when not it is an array. The more you practice and the more you read about it, the better you will understand. I've also shared the 2 links here, and I'll share it on the chat window as well. Please make sure to go through these links. It's the official documentation for Microsoft and for Google. Okay. Next, we want to do a very beautiful problem. In fact, I'm sure you will, when I explain it, you will all realize how important it is. This is a problem I had. Obviously, the data have changed, but I captured a lot of emails, right? Like from the open workshop that I'm conducting. Now, I don't know why, but some people like to unsubscribe to my emails, right? Just on a lighter note. Now, let's say I have run these campaigns. And of course, there are the email IDs that are being repeated. So if you look at Aaron, Aaron loves me. Aaron keeps on downloading and coming for every workshop that I do. But these are people who have unsubscribed. Now, listen to my question. I want to send out an email like I sent to all of you today. And I only want to send it to those people, obviously, who have still subscribed. No, they're still subscribers. And who have not told me that, Havish, we don't want to receive any more emails from you. So tell me, how would we do this? I hope the question is clear. Right now, we have a list of emails that we have captured. Obviously, there are duplicate values. So we'll, of course, have to first remove the duplicate values. But even after I've removed the duplicate, how do I know that these people should not be sent the email to? How do I remove these names from that list of values? Anyone? Sanjay, if you can think of something, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use Vlookup and filter, but I'll go one step further, which is I'll also tell you how to do it much more cleanly inside a single formula. No, Ashwin, conditional formatting will, yes, it will color the cells, but then you will still have to go and apply a filter and then sort by color and then copy paste it somewhere else, right? We want a mechanism wherein I write a single formula, and tomorrow if more names get added, more people unsubscribe, it will automatically get updated, right? But good, I'm happy that all of you are thinking of different things. It's going to be a little long, the formula, so just pay a little bit of attention. The first thing I do is I'll also increase the size here so you can see it clearly. I will say equal to unique. What does it do? It will tell me that from these 39 emails, there are 29 unique emails. Simple enough. Nothing fancy so far. But then this list of unique values have to be searched. And I want to check for each one of these 29 values, are they in column C or not, right? So what will I do? I will say Vlookup. That means I'm searching for every one of these values that I have. Remember, so we have 29 values. Yeah, so Dennis, maybe you can try it out on your own and using how you feel is the best way. I'm going to show you my solution. I'm sure there are many other ways of doing it. And I would love to share notes and see, which one is faster and which one is more efficient, right? Okay, so what I'm going to use now is Vlookup. And I will say that for every one of these 29 values, I want to search in column C. So we can just select the entire column C, which is the column number 1, because column C is only one column, and I want to do an exact match. Think what will happen. How many lookup values do we have? We have not B4 to B42, remember, because we have found out the unique. Remember, there are only 29 values that we are searching in column C. Now, some values will be there, some values will not be there. So the result will be like this. So what is it doing? Wherever there is an email, which is already there in the unsubscribed list as well, it is showing me that, yes, it is there. Otherwise, it is showing me an NA. So now we are getting somewhere. Now we can say, I don't really need to see the NA. So I will say is NA. And what does that do? Is NA will convert it into false and true. But the problem is that, okay, I know there is false and true. And what are we interested in now? Can somebody tell me who do we need to send an email to, the true or the false?
True.
The true. If I go back one step, do you see this? The NAs are good. The NA means that these are people who are not present in the unsubscribed list. Does that make sense? Anybody who's present in unsubscribed is having an email. Obviously, somebody who's not in the unsubscribed list will not have the email. That's why it is NA. So in this case, NA is good for us. So I want to say that yes, Excel, I want all the true values to be given to me. But the problem is that I have to use a filter, but then where is my array? Where are we searching? So what I'll very smartly do now is, now this is where the formula gets a little longer. I will use a variable declaration, right? So I will say let, okay? The first thing I'll do in let is I will say, I want to create my calc1. In fact, let's just call it unique values. And what are my unique values? My unique values are this. So I'll cut it, put it here. And then rather than writing the function or the formula, I can write unique values like this. As you can see, everybody, I have not changed anything. It is the same formula as earlier. The result will also be exactly the same. But rather than writing the formula inside my VLOOKUP, I have given a name to the formula. What is the name I've given? Unique values, and I have used the name inside. So simple variable declaration. But now I also want to filter the data, isn't it? So to filter the data, now I can say that I want to filter what? I want to filter my list of unique values. And what is the inclusion? The inclusion is this list of true and false that is coming. And voila, what result do you get now? You will get a list of people, only 24. And these are the people who are not in the unsubscribed list. Right? Because 5, remember there are 29 unique names, 5 of them have unsubscribed. So 24 people are there like this. Any questions, anybody? I'm sure you have many questions. I'll try my best to answer. Sriram, we can use if error, but in this case, remember we want the NA. Because the NA tells me that, oh, this is the person who is not on the unsubscribe. So I want to make that true so that I can filter it. You know, when I started to write this formula for the first time, I also thought if error, let me remove the error. But then you realize, no, you need the error in this case. If you had used an if error, then you will have to do a not to convert the false into true and the true into false. Right? If I may show you, if I had done, if you said, Havish, but why can't we do if error like this, where I say that if there is an error here, then I want to say something else, right? Then you will also have to do a not, because that will convert your false into true and true into false. Because remember, in this case, the NA values are what we need in the list. Right? So everyone, I don't expect you to learn it by heart. It took me a while to practice it. And then once I got comfortable with it, then of course I can now close one eye and with one hand I can type it. So the idea is not to memorize it. The idea is to understand it. If I take 5 seconds or you take 2 minutes, what difference does it make? The point is that you should be able to understand, okay, this is why we are doing it and how the different steps are being combined with each other. Okay. Now, obviously, there are many other factors. For example, some of you might say, but Havish, how do I make this 42 dynamic? You know, so that when more emails get added, see, column C, I can select the entire column. I agree. But then 42 should be dynamic, isn't it? Because tomorrow, if another email subscription comes, then I'll have to come here and change that number. So this is never ending. At least let me give you that one example. And actually, I'm also not sure how we'll do it with text values. Let me think. Just give me a moment. So what we will do here is, let me see if this works. But there is a possibility that this might not work. But never mind. You can also see how I do my data cleaning. So I'm going to match a very large value, right? So I will say 9.99. And I'm going to match it in column B. Right? And this would be an exact match. But unfortunately, this would not work because I don't have numbers there, right? But if I have some numbers here in column F and I said F and F, then it tells me, it still doesn't give me an answer. So let me try, okay, this is working. So let me see if column B works here. Yeah, that doesn't work. So as you can see, everybody, when I do match a very large number, 9 followed by 99 numbers, and I search in column F and I do a less than match, what is it telling me? That my 12th row is the last row. Okay, so if I put another number here, it tells me that the 16th row is the last row. How cool is that? But the problem is that, and this is what I need, no? I need to make this last number dynamic, 42. But I can't do it with B because B is all text value. So what I'll do is, please watch. I will say equal to sequence, and I will create a number of rows. How many rows do we want? I will say count A in column B, and we can do -1. So what will it do? It will automatically create a sequence of values like this. Do you see this? So tomorrow, if I add another email, the serial number comes automatically. So this is very cool. And now this can become my criteria. So I'm going to search in column A, and it tells me that 42 is the last record, which is the cell we require. Remember, can you connect this 42 with this, everybody? That's what we need. No, we need to make this 42 dynamic. But how do you make it dynamic? We can simply write indirect, where all of this will be inside double quote, and this will be concatenated by this 42, which will be nothing but match 9.99e. And we're searching for this in column A, and I am doing a less than match. Oh, this is quite a lot. Let's see if we are able to do this correctly. Does this seem right? I don't know. Let's see. It's working. Perfect. But how do I prove it to you that it is working? Let's watch. Tomorrow, when I add another email, let's say havish@gmail.com. If I've done this correctly, do you see this? Havish has got added. How cool is that? This means that tomorrow, see, this is what I do for organizations, right? Organizations tell me, Havish, we also know how to write formulas and make complex formulas. My job is to automate it to a point, or make it efficient to a point where as little user interactions as possible are required. That's what we're trying to do. As a matter of fact, now we have to create this new column A, which is not difficult because serial numbers creation is not a problem. But if you really think about it, why are we not creating the sequence inside the formula itself? So if I wanted to, rather than searching in column A, we could have also created a sequence here. I'm not doing it, but I'm just trying to show to you that there are many, many improvements. Like in programming, we call it refactoring, where you go back and improve the way the code is written. Similarly in Excel, see, Excel is a programming language. What we're doing right now is programming. Just the fact that we're not doing lines of code does not mean it's not programming. It is absolutely programming, all right? And on that note, how do you improve the way you write the formula? In insert add-ins, which is a store available, there is a beautiful add-in called the formula editor. It's free of cost. So in Office add-ins, you have something called the formula editor. This one, okay, free of cost. How does it work? Please watch. Now you can see my formula is quite long and I need to make it clean. So I go to formula editor and I can click on formula editor on the left. And as you can see, I can turn it on and it beautifully in one click will clean up my formula. Okay, it's not cleaning it up. I'm not really sure why, but anyway, we can do it ourselves. So we'll be able to say that. Let's put a tab here, right? So after indirect, right, I want to say that this concatenate should come on the next line. So here you don't have to press Alt Enter and all, okay? You can just press Enter. And I'm sure all of you can agree that writing formulas like this is going to make your job so much easier. Like this. How cool is that? The formula still remains the same, just the way that you write the formula makes it so much simpler. And you have many other tools available. So you notice that I have a complete command palette. So I can add cursors. Let me give you an example. Let's say I add, why am I not able to find it? Just a moment. Control Alt up arrow. Yeah, like this. Do you see this? So I can add these lines so I can see where one function is starting and where it is ending. All of this you do in IDEs when you're doing coding, and it's wonderful to see that it can be done on Excel as well. Like this is one of those hidden gems, right, which is available in Excel. I just found it. I remember, Sanjay, we were together, right, when we found this?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
we
yes.
just found it purely by accident, right? And it is amazing. I mean, I can't imagine anybody not using it. It's ridiculous how simple, how much simpler it makes the process of writing formulas, right? So please make sure to have a look at this.
Yes, sir. We thought that there is only for DAX, but it is there for Excel as well.
And it's absolutely fantastic. And there are many other options available. You can even change the size and the auto width and whatnot. Right? Please make sure to have a look at this. Great. Any final questions on the formula? Anyone? I know it's long, and when you see the formula, you can upload this file on Excel online and then you can work on it. if you are not able to do this on your local desktop version, since you don't have the new features. Right? I'll wait for a minute in case anybody needs to ask something, then we'll continue. Let me also say that the job of a good data analyst is not to write lesser formulas, okay? I'm not trying to show off to you, see how amazing I am that I was able to do everything inside a single formula. Maybe by writing 2 formulas or 3 formulas, step by step, it would have become easier. But you know the advantage of writing lesser formulas, everything is controllable inside a single formula. So tomorrow, if you want to make a change, there isn't a domino effect. Otherwise, what happens if I had done this in 3 steps? If one step changes, then I have to see how it impacts the other one. I hope you see what I'm saying, right? But yes, even in coding, just like in Excel, we always say that sometimes breaking a large routine, okay, into smaller subroutines, maybe it's a good idea. So don't try to feel that, oh, Havish has done it in a single formula, so I should also do it in a single formula. Completely up to you. If you feel that you want to do it inside 3 formulas, by all means, please do that, right? I'm not doing this last example, which was this conditional statement if, because we've already done a long formula, so there's no point doing it. But you can maybe just go back and practice this. Let's quickly come to the next topic since we have a limited amount of time. I next want to show you Power Query, all right? But before I do that, I also want to tell you which are the functions that you need to learn if you want to become good with data transformations, all right? Now, one is your text functions. Most of this you would be aware of. So we have lower, upper, you have proper, then you have repeat, then you have substitute, then you have find, then you have length, right? There are a few others as well. So you have text and something new, very advanced is filter XML. Something that I found out very recently. It's an amazing function. I mean, the sort of things it can do are unheard of. And I never knew of this. I want to give you an example. Look at this. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to make it a little smaller so that you can understand it better. Do you see my value in B3? There are 5 items in it. Darren Pass, comma 70,000, comma Y, comma 780, comma Y. I'm sure all of you have seen these comma separated values, correct? How do we split it into 5 different columns? What do? We do text to column. But that means every time a new value gets added, you have to again click on text to column. And you know what I'm doing right now? If I can just show you this, transpose. How amazing is that? I'm able to write a formula that will split your value into 5 different columns. Isn't that amazing? And I never knew of this. That's the beauty of it. It's not about learning more functions. I mean, this function I was not even aware of. But other than that, even the functions that we have been using for so many years, maybe there are very different ways of using it. So always challenge yourself and always keep on learning from the internet. I mean, don't tell yourself I'm very good with Vlookup. I don't need to learn anything more. I can go on for Vlookup for 3 hours and trust me, every single thing I show you will blow your mind. You know, so every single topic has so much depth to it. So rather than learning more functions, focus on learning functions and learning it well. By the way, this can also do append. Like here, if you notice, I'm combining 2 different data ranges. So the 71490 is getting added at the end, right? And how am I doing this? We are doing this using a filter XML with a text join. These are XML paths, so I'll not be able to explain all this now, but now that you know the function name, just go online and search for it. There is a lot of documentation available on all this, right? Great. Now let's come to Power Query. And the first problem I want to take is this one. This is the data set. We have 4 regions. We have North, East, West, and South. Then we have the month-wise value for the actual and the target. So we can see that in January, actual target, February, actual target. And 99% of financial reporting, let's say in financial planning and analysis, is done like this. And there's nothing wrong with it because this is how businesses want to consume data. So a CFO would like to see data this way. A CFO is not going to scroll down to see the data. It doesn't make any sense. This is how they want to see it, left to right. Okay, not top to bottom. But the problem is that if this is how the report is being compiled, and you want to make a pivot table for some analysis, you're screwed because you can't. You can't convert this into a pivot because your months are not in one column and your values are not in one column. In fact, the month and the year and the type of data, target or actual, has become a part of the heading, which is not correct at all. And this is an example where we have to use Power Query. If you do it manually, it will take you forever, right? So if I say, okay, this is my first region, right? Then I have my month, and then I have my type, and then I have my value, right? So then I say, okay, this is for Jan, but there are two types. So one will be the target and the other will be the actual. And my target is 102 and this will be 130. Can you imagine how much time this will take you to one by one copy and paste it? And you can think of writing some functions and all, but they will not work. Either you know VBA very well or you have Power Query with you. Right? Any questions on the problem statement? Anybody before we start working on this? Let's see. Yeah. So Suresh, and especially the students in this workshop, trust me, this is so common, it's almost laughable. I work as a consultant, right? So I work with a variety of different clients. And I always tell myself and I tell others that it's so strange that organizations might be so different to each other, different industries, different people, different data culture, but the way they work on Excel is exactly the same. So I always tell organizations that the way you should differentiate yourself is not just through a people culture, but also through a data culture. The way you store data, the way you handle data, the way people across different levels work with data, right? All right, let's see how we handle this. So I select the data. I will go to data and go to from table oblique range. Most of you should have this option if you have 2016 or 2019 Excel, okay? Now it has been introduced for Mac as well. 13 does not have it, I think, but 16 and 19 should have this option. And this option is called the Power Query Editor, right? It's a very powerful ETL tool. And I'll show you what the tool looks like, the documentation, but first let's look at the example. So I click on from table oblique range. The data will get converted to a table, which is okay. And now a new window opens up. And on this window, we have to perform some steps. So far, what have we done? If you look on the right side, you can see that the first step is that from my Excel file and the current workbook, I have gone to the table. Why have I not written the sheet? Because the table is unique. So I don't need to mention which sheet it is. If I wanted to, I can, but we don't need to. And from the table, what are we taking? The entire content. This formula that you see is called M, just the letter M. This is called M code. It's a different type of language that we use for Power Query. What is the next step? It changed the type for each column. So region is a text. This is number, number, number. Everything else is a number. All right. Number here is represented as an integer 64. Now let's come to the data transformation. First thing first. I don't like the fact that my month and my year and my type of value is in the heading. Why is it in the heading? It has no business to be in the heading. It has to come back in the data, isn't it? So we will say, use the header as the first row, right? So I'm taking the header and pulling it back in the data like this. Now, obviously, some header has to be there, isn't it? So it says column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like this. But at least now the header has come in the data, so I can do something with it. Earlier, I could not do anything because the header cannot be accessed. Now, I don't like the look, so I need to transpose it. So we will go to transform and we will say transpose. And it looks better, not quite what we want, but at least the numbers are coming in a column rather than coming in multiple columns. Now I want to reverse. I want to make north, east, west, and south as the header. So I will say, use the first row as the headers like this. So now I have the region. I have the north, east, west, and south, but it's still not quite what we want. Now it's very simple. I can do right click on the first column and then we will unpivot all the other columns. Okay. And you can see that it is almost 90% of what we need. We have the region, we have the value, we only need the month, and we need the actual target. So very simple. I can say this is my, oh, 1 second. Let me call this my month. But then we need to separate that Jan 2020 and that actual, right? So I will use add column. And then we have something called column from examples, which is a little bit of machine learning where we have to give some samples and it will automatically run that sample on the other data, on the new data. So when I say Jan 2020, it automatically understands that, okay, Havish wants to separate Jan 2020 and actual, right? So I'll click on OK. So what is this? This is my, let's just call it the date. Now I'll do it once again, column from examples. And now we can say, I only need the actual. So it will only separate the word from the end like this. And this I'm going to call as the type. Okay. And then this we don't require, so I'll remove it. My date comes in the beginning. My type comes after that. This becomes my region. This becomes my, let's just keep it as the value only. And this, everybody, is how you create a perfect tabular data. Any questions, anyone? And you can see how many steps we have written. But the good part is that all the steps have been saved. So at any point, if you want to go back, change something, modify, learn from what you have done previously, you'll be able to do that.
It is same like Power BI.
It is not 99% same, it is 100% Power BI. And interestingly, a lot of people have this misconception where they say that, oh, this is in Power BI and Excel has taken it from Power BI. Not at all. This is a feature that was introduced for Excel. And when Power BI came in 2015, it was introduced in Power BI as well. It was borrowed in Power BI. Why has Microsoft created Power Query? Because they realized that from Excel to SQL, there's a huge gap. SQL are power users who are mostly IT professionals who have a background of IT and they know how to work on SQL, work on databases. Excel, on the other hand, is also where people are doing the same thing. You're doing query, data transformation, but you also create relationships. The only difference is in SQL, you use merge. In Excel, we use Vlookup. We just call them different things, but we are doing the same thing, what we are doing in SQL. But the problem is that there is a huge gap. Now, Excel users cannot suddenly become SQL users, right? It doesn't make any sense. That is why this is a stopgap. This is that solution which is meant for people who do not come from an IT background, but still want to use very powerful data transformations. And how powerful it is, you can look at the number of data sets that Power Query can connect to. So if I go to data, you can see that Power Query can connect to workbook, XML files, JSON files, PDF folder. It can connect to different types of databases, SQL Access, IBM Postgres, HANA. Then you have Power BI, you have Microsoft Cloud. Then you even have other services here, right? So Power Query is a super powerful tool. There are over 100 connectors, 100 different types of data sources that Power Query can connect to. You can even do API calls here. And if you want to read more about this, which you should go to powerquery.microsoft.com, right? And what is it? In one line, it's a data prepping tool, which is fast, smart, and easy, right? It can connect to hundreds of data sources, including you have a software development kit for this as well. If you want to build your own custom data types and connectors, you have APIs as well. Of course, you have object connections and databases and all. There are more than 300 transformations available, and it also has some AI-based transformations. And this is the best part, no coding knowledge required, right? Where does it work? It works on CDS, SQL Server, Power Automate, Power BI, and Excel. And yeah, I mean, the entire documentation is there. We are using a language called M, which is what we are using for this right now. Right. So you can't be an advanced Excel user if you don't know Power Query. In fact, I would even go to the extent of saying you can't even say that I'm a decent Excel user if you don't know Power Query. Power Query is an integral component of Excel. It's not an add-on or a feature. As much as VLOOKUP or SUMIF is a part of Excel, and of course you have to learn it, you have to learn Power Query as well. Now you might say, but Havish, if you don't learn it, can we do this stuff manually? You can't. Like in this case, imagine doing this manually. And I work with the Big Four, so I can say from personal experience that this will take a lot of time if you end up doing it manually. And you have to. You don't have a choice where you say, oh, I don't want to do this stuff. You have to do this stuff. Right? And of course, it's dynamic. So if anything changes, so if I change it to 999, how do I update it? Simply right-click and refresh, and the number gets updated here. Right? If tomorrow another month gets added, so if I say that I'm adding the month of June as well, so I'm just changing May to June, right? I can just come back and refresh, and it tells me that how cool is that? It has got added June as well. Right? Super cool, right? All right. Now, the next thing I want to show you is an extension of this. Let me make a pivot table. All right. First, let me also convert this into dates. These are not dates, right? So let me just go to table and edit query. And how will we convert this into a date? Let me just think about it. So let's go to column from examples. And maybe if we write 1st Jan 2020 should convert everything into a date. Just a moment. Is that working? Yeah, that seems to work. So, okay. And let me convert this into a date. That seems to work. We can now remove this and we can pull this in the front and this becomes a date. Perfect. Let me close and apply. All right, now let's make a pivot table, everybody. And let me show you something very interesting now. Why was June actual 2? I did not notice. Let me see. This one? Oh, because what must have happened is that I don't really know, to be honest, why it came as actual or target. Just a moment. Oh, got it. Because here it was incorrect. Here it was actual 2 and target. That's why. Because when we did a copy paste, it automatically added that number. There's no problem on our end. It will work perfectly. Right? No actual 2 and target 3. Right? Let me see the other question. So Ashwin, I hope you have seen the problem, right? So when I copy pasted another column in the table, it automatically added a number to it. Right. Now let's look at Power Pivot. Power Query.
So I have a question here. So sometimes when the data is given in the format that you shared earlier, generally, I mean, what people do is once they've transformed the data in this manner that you have on screen, they move it to a different workbook.
Okay.
I know the answer to this question as well, but would it still work if we move table 1 to a different workbook?
It will work, but you will have to go to the table edit range,
okay.
and then
you have to define the source again.
Yeah. So all you have to do is you have to go to data source settings, and you will just have to change the path. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Now let's make a pivot table, but we will do it a little differently. Please watch. By the way, this number is too large. Let me just make it something else. Power Pivot is also available in Excel 2013, 16, 19, but you will have to enable it. It is by default, it is disabled. So you have to go to File and then Options. Then you go to Add-ins, and then you go to the second option called COM add-ins, which are component object models. And in COM add-ins, you have something called Power Pivot. You have many other things, but this is what we need at the moment, Power Pivot. All right. Once you enable it, you will get a Power Pivot button like this. So now we have two power tools called Power Pivot and Power Query. And now when I make a pivot table, I will make sure this is called table 1, 2. Let me also change the name of the table. Something more descriptive. So let's just call it my data. Okay. So now when I click on pivot, I will make sure to add this to the data model. So I'll select this checkbox that you see here. Right? What difference does that make? Quite a lot. Now, when you have added it to the data model, you will notice that you get this small icon here, right? This means that it has been added to the data model, right? Otherwise, it will work like a normal pivot, but it will have some additional features. Let me show you. So if I have my region and I have my value, you can see that these are the values that we have. And let me put the type in columns, right? The problem is I want to look at the difference. So I want to see the difference between my actual versus my budget versus my achievement, right? My target minus actual. Now, all of you know that this can only be done one way, which is to write a formula outside the pivot, because you can't do formulas inside the pivot. If it's a very simple formula, then you can always go and select something called calculated field. But interestingly, calculated field will be disabled if you have made a data model. Right? Let me explain that once again. So I am making a normal pivot now. Nothing special, just a normal pivot. Now you notice we do get this option called calculated field. Okay. In a normal pivot, you have calculated field. In a data model, you don't have calculated field. Long story short, calculated field should never be used. It does offer a few features like basic, minus, plus arithmetic operators, but it will create many other issues, and it is always recommended. If you speak to any developer, read any book, do not use this. I would have been happier if they had completely removed this option, but anyway, they have kept it, so we can't help it. Right, so we come back to this. Now I want to do a calculation inside my pivot table, which is the data model. And to create calculations inside pivot tables, inside data models, we use something called data analysis expressions. And what is it? Just read the line. Data analysis expressions are functions and operators similar to Excel, but they can be used to build formulas inside Excel data models. That's what we did. We had a data model. This can be used on SQL Server, on Power BI, and on Excel. Now, what is the problem statement? Very clear. I want target minus actual, target minus actual. To do this, I will go to Power Pivot, and then we will select measure, which is nothing but a DAX formula, and we will select new measure. There's a new window that opens up. Let's call this my diff, which is my difference. And what is the difference going to be? Very simple. I will say that the difference is what? The difference is my target minus actual, right? So all we do is we can write target, but you notice target is not appearing. And it makes sense because target is not really a field. Target is an item within a field called type, right? So type is the column which has two items in it. So you can't just say target minus actual. It doesn't work like that. So we will have to do calculate. I want to calculate the sum of my value, right? The sum of my data value. But I want to calculate the sum of my value with a filter applied. And what is that filter that is being applied? The filter says that the type that we have, so my data type should only be equal to my target, right? Like this. And then we can copy the entire thing and I can say minus, and in this one, I will say my actual. Okay. Let's check the formula. Everything seems to be working, no errors. Press OK. And voila, let me remove this just a minute. You can see, you get the result, right? So target was 564, actual was 7. It should actually be the other way around, actual minus target. But anyway, you get the idea. This is a formula we have created inside the pivot table for which we use DAX specials. Let me also show you something new. You can now go to pivot table, analyze, and there's an option called Olap Tools, right? Olap has many other things in it. So we have something called multi-dimensional expressions, which we use in SQL. This is mostly for IT folks. I mean, in fact, this is for IT guys. This is not meant for normal data analysts. But there is one feature that you should really use, which is called convert to formulas. It creates something called cube formulas. Let me show you. You notice that my pivot has got converted into a normal data set. But you see this, there are formulas like this. So everything has got converted into formulas. How cool is that? This means that now I can combine these results, right? I can combine these results with other formulas. Earlier, I could not do that because it was a pivot table. Remember? This was a pivot. So I can't combine this with other formulas. But after converting it into cube formulas, everything is still connected to my data model. As you can see, everything is connected to the model without using a pivot table. How cool is that? These are very advanced operations. But I mean, yeah, that's how it works.
How it differs from get pivot data?
Get pivot data will access a pivot table. So if I have a pivot table and I say equal to get pivot, I'm sorry, if I simply say equal to, let's say this is how it works, right? This is what get pivot data gives you. But then you still need to have the pivot table active, right? Here, what I can do is after converting it into cube formulas, I can even make a change to the existing result. I can make a modification here as well. Earlier, you can use get paper data to only get data. You can't modify the data, right? Here, I can also modify the data if I want. Right, so again, I would suggest that you Google it, just say cube value Excel. You will not find a lot of help available because not a lot of people work on it. But then, I mean, as long as you feel it can help you in some part or the other, you should definitely have a look at this. All right. Great. Any other questions, anyone, on this? So we've done Power Query, we've done Power Pivot. And if you want to learn more of Power Query and Power Pivot, I will share the perfect video with you. Of course, I'm going to share my own, but then I can be fairly confident that all of you will definitely like this. So this is a video in which I have explained Power Query and Power Pivot together in a much larger example. So it's, I think, a 1 hour 19 minutes video. So I just share the link with everyone. All right. Let's quickly come to VBA. I'm thinking of the right problem. So let's say there's a problem statement where I have, as you can see, 5 sheets with me. Sheet 2, 4, 3, table 1, sheet 1. And I want to create a table of content, right? Which will show me a list of all the sheets. If you do it manually, you can, but then you will also have to do right-click hyperlink, right-click hyperlink. You can simply go online and you can type VBA code 2. Just remember these 3 words, VBA code 2, and then type whatever your problem is. So I want to create a table of content like this. So VBA code to create table of content. Just open any link. You have the code available. And I just copy the entire thing. It's slightly long, but then, we don't really need to modify it. We just need to copy and paste it. And my job is to show you where to copy and paste it. Right? So after it is copied, we will come back to Excel. I will right click on any sheet and then go to view code. That's the VBA backend, right? So that's the integrated environment. And ignore this rubber duck. The rubber duck is an extension that I have on my VBA. So, I mean, don't bother with this. So we are working on this file, target versus budget, right? But where do we paste the code? To paste the code, I need to insert a module. Very simple. Right click, insert module, and Control V. And you know what? That's it. So if those of you who have not worked on Visual Basic and who have thought, oh, it's programming, it's difficult. Yes, it is programming. And yes, it is complex, but it's not difficult. Because as you saw, all I did was I went to the website, copied. I came back, I did a right click and view code. Then I just did a insert module. And that's it. And then you paste it and it works. Let's see how it works now. If I go to view, I have macros here on the right side. Okay. There's a macro called table of contents create. And if you click on it, you notice that in one click, instantaneously, it creates a list of 5 sheet names for you. And it has also added a hyperlink for each one. This is the level of automation that you can expect by using Visual Basic. Any questions, anyone, on this?
So, Havish, this has been possible because of the code that you have just copied.
Absolutely. This is the code. Right? So if you notice, the code is first deleting the index sheet. Then it is checking if the user wants to create a list of topics. Then it is creating a new sheet. It is adding so like this, you can see step by step how it is working.
So if I have my tab with different names, I will need to change it somewhere.
What do you mean you will have it with different names?
So let us say if I have here in the sheet, the tab names are sheet 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so, right? So in case I have a tab name like my world area, like North America or Asia Pacific, Middle East. So how do we get that?
So whatever name is there, you just have to go to view macros and run it again.
Okay, so I need not change anything, but just run that macro again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is
Okay.
absolutely nothing that you have to change in this. Not even a single
Okay.
character has to be changed.
Oh, that's
Right?
great.
So yeah, and that's what I want to show you, that I'm not teaching you how to become a coder, right? But I'm
Yeah,
telling you
yeah.
that without needing to be a coder, there are thousands, okay, not hundreds. There are thousands of free codes like this available on the internet. All you have to do is you have to type top 100 VBA codes, and there
Okay.
are hundreds of VBA codes that people have already created for you. Yeah, so there cannot be any malware or virus attack. VBA codes have nothing to do with viruses. The VBA code can still be a problem because it can do damage to your system. For example, there is a command in, okay, so we have something called kill, right, in VBA. So if I write kill and I, just a moment. So if I write kill and I put a path, let's say this path, and I run this, you know what will happen? It will delete it. This is what is dangerous. If you write kill and you put a path, if you say C directory users and your name, it deletes everything on your system. No warning, shift delete. So that is why it is very dangerous, because you're operating at a system level, right? You're giving VBA like Excel. What is the worst that can happen? The Excel can crash. The formula gets the formula doesn't work, or maybe I delete a sheet and I save the file. That is the worst thing that can happen, right? It cannot damage my files and folders and rename things and make irretrievable damage. VBA has control over everything. It has even control over other applications. It has control over the internet. So if there is something malicious in the code, of course it can do that. But then, honestly, I don't have an answer to how do you know when the code is fishy. If you go to good websites, right, there should not be any problem. Yeah, I mean, kill is definitely something you should search for, but then also there's a catch. There will be certain codes that will have a kill in it because there are some temporary files that it deletes. So the kill is actually a part of the proper code. So how do you know whether you can delete it or you can't delete it? See, that's where the complexity comes in, isn't it? But let me assure you, if you go to VBA code, let's say top 100 VBA codes, okay? Let me open this. Most of these codes are very small. For example, look at this. Now you tell me, without having any knowledge of VBA or coding, just by looking at the code, do you feel there is anything dangerous here? Of course not. I have declared something. It is saying for each worksheet in active workbook, the visibility level should become hidden. Right? So by looking at it, it does speak to you, right? And I'm sure you will have confidence that I'm sure this is not going to do any damage. Look at this one. Look at any code for that matter. Just by looking at a code, you can get a sense of whether there is something problematic in it or not. Now, of course, some problem can happen. Maybe your Excel color changes, or I don't know, the scroll bars disappear, and then you will be in trouble because you will not know how to bring it back. But of course, if you're stepping into coding, then you have to get used to facing problems every day and going online and searching for it. All the time issues will happen, and all the time you will have to go and search for it. You cannot be a coder if you say, no, I want to learn it properly so that issues never happen. Issues will happen all the time. A good programmer is somebody who knows how to resolve them as quickly as possible, right? There is an entire website and a community built around this called Stack Overflow. And that is what developers do the entire day. They come here, they say, what is my question? So if I type VBA here, right, it will, you can see 188,000 questions have been asked related to VBA, right? So that's my point. If you want to step into coding, I will not say that it's easy. Of course, you will have to, realize that it's a journey. If you're stepping into coding, then you will have to invest a lot of time and effort learning the small things. I'm not sure how many of you are still there. I can see 23 of you. So let me finish off the workshop by quickly showing you how does, just a moment, how does VBA work on the cloud? Because see, the future is going to be online, right? And Excel is now also shifting online slowly, like Google Sheets. So I feel that maybe after a while, a lot of work will happen on the cloud. The short answer is VBA does not work on Excel online. VBA is a very old language. It was declared a legacy language in 2008. So it is not supported by Microsoft in the sense that it is still there, but they're not adding any features to it. When you're working online, we have something called Automate. Now, Automate at the moment is only available to business users of Microsoft, right? So if you have a personal account or a home or an office student account, you will not have this. We expect that this will get rolled out after some time. As of now, the Automate button is not available to individual users, but you should still see how it works. The Automate has a VBA recorder in it, like a VBA recorder. So for example, if I select something, right, and I click on record actions, look what it does. It starts the recording. So if I, let's say, change the color, right, and I also want to change it to left aligned, and let me stop the recording. The actions that I have performed, just like VBA, will be converted to TypeScript. TypeScript is a language which is a superscript of JavaScript. So it's very similar to JavaScript. And that is what Microsoft has. So this is created by Microsoft. Okay. So Microsoft created a language called TypeScript, which is what they're using for script editor. And it will make sense. Watch this. What is the first thing we did? Remember, we set a color to this range of cells. So it is saying that Havish set a fill color, which is DDE-BF7. That's the hex code of the color on the range A1, B11. Very nice. And how did I do this? I said on my selected sheet, I first selected the range. What was the range? A1 to B11. Then I got the format and then I did a fill. And what color did I put in? This. So if I change this color to something else, let's say 2577 CE, which is my brand color. And if I run it once again, let's see what happens. Do you see how the color is changing? How cool is that? So you can record an action and then you can make small modifications to it. Right? Just like you have this alignment which says left, obviously you can make it right here. And then if you run it once again, this time you notice the alignment becomes right. So you can automate your tasks in this way. Yeah, that's all from my side. Any questions that are pending, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, it was actually a very interactive session, Ravish, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The point is, like, I missed a few times because of my work. Can I have these recordings available?
Yeah, the recording will be put on YouTube. I'll also share the link with you on. You registered, right? So your email ID is there with me. So you will get an email with the recording link.
Thanks, Ravish. That's my problem also, Dr. Ratika. I joined late, and thank you for the recording.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I learned a lot today, actually. So it's very interactive. Thank you.
I would be more happy if you tell me that, Havish, we became aware and we learned a lot, rather than telling me that, Havish, I can also write that formula. The idea is not to memorize. The idea was for you to open up your horizon and get a better appreciation for Excel. I think we all underestimate Excel too much without realizing that Excel is the #1 programming language in the world. 750 million people, 75 crore people in the world work on Excel, more than any other language. Right? So yeah, and Excel constantly keeps on changing. So that's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Havish. And
thank you.
Whatever you have told today, so I'll be implementing some of that in my workplace, because I deal mostly in financial projections. So yeah, it's a lot of rows and columns. So I had to filter them manually.
All right.
So I will use these tricks, and thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Havish, for organizing this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Havish.
Thank you.
So you have many courses. So which course should I take for learning this formula and all?
Right. So I have 16 courses on Excel, which cover everything from basic Excel, Vlookup, formulas, pivot table, cleaning data, date functions, VBA, Power Query, Power Pivot. So all these topics are covered. But there are 16 courses. Overall, there is 30 hours of content. Each course is between 1 to 3 hours, right? So you can follow a path and you can do the courses in a sequence. You can start from the intermediate topics and then do the advanced topics.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn.